Okay, so this is the Tenyi deck that we could make right now using the cards that we got from the box. And we are missing a really important piece, which is a Monk of the Tenyi. This card is really important, but it is probably still playable without it. And basically what you want to do is you probably won't get the same cards as I do because it's randomized. So what you want to do is just play as many Tenyi monsters as you can in the main deck. So if you have 3 copies of, let's say, this Tenyi, the green one, you play 3 copies. If you have 2 copies of Adhara, you only play 2. So you just play as many monsters as you can from the Tenyi monsters that you get from the box. Just play as many of those as you can. And then for the spells, you can also play as many copies as you have, except for the field spell. The field spell is enough for a single copy. So even if you have more copies of the field spell, playing 1 is going to be enough, unless you don't have enough cards to form a 20 card deck. For example, if you don't have two win Tenyis, oh no, I don't have enough cards to make a 20 card deck, then you will probably play a second copy of the field spell to meet the criteria of having 20 cards in your deck. And then for the extra deck, again, you will be playing as many of the Tenyi stuff as you can. 1 copy of Berserker, as many copies of Shaman as you have, as many copies of Monk as you have, but I don't have any, so we're not playing that. Draco Masters is not very good, but that's the only other Tenyi link that we have. So once we get the other better Tenyis, we will be replacing this card, but for the time being, we will be playing this. And we will also play 1 copy of Draco Berserker that we got from the bundle. And then after that, you can go to set the skill. And because we just got Destiny Draw, we can use that immediately. We can select it and click set. And then we can give our deck a name, and then we can start playing with this deck. Okay, so anyway, let's have a test battle using this deck. We'll go to Marek Ishtar, which is controlling strings. And if we win this game, we get Slifer. Even if we don't, it's fine. He won't go away. So he'll just stay there until you win. So it doesn't really matter too much if you lose this game. And technically, you can kind of intentionally scoop, you can surrender and before you win. And it will basically help you complete your missions because this guy never goes away. So you have basically infinite tries. But we don't really need to do that. So yeah, let's have a look at how this deck works in a fundamental level. So we don't have every single link that we actually need for this deck. We're missing the link 1, but we can still play without it. So what we do is, the mechanic of this deck is that every single monster you have can be special summoned if you don't control an effect monster. So if you don't have any monster, that counts as not having an effect monster. So you can just use the activate effect to actually just summon it for free. So even though this monster is level 7, we can still use its effect, and then special summon this card to our field. We can even choose to summon it in defense because it is a special summon. And we can choose any zone, doesn't really matter too much. And usually this is when you will make your link 1 by using this Tenyi as a material, but we don't have the link 1, so instead we will just normal summon any other Tenyi. And because we have an effect monster on our field, which is the Tenyi that we just summoned, we cannot special summon other Tenyis for free. We have to use our normal summon, which is still fine, so we can still do that. And now we have 2 monsters on our field. We have 2 options. We can either make Shaman, which is link 2 that revives Tenyi from our graveyard and gives us access to the link 3, or we can make a Synchro monster. And we'll just make the link 2 for the tutorial, because usually you cannot just make the Synchro right away. We kind of got really lucky and we drew the expensive ultra rare. But usually if you don't, you will go through the link monster. So we will just make the link 2 using 2 of our Tenyis and make the link monster. And we can use its effect. We will discard a card from our hand. We will discard the Heavenly Dragon Circle, because this card, when it is in our graveyard, as you can see, you can banish this card from the graveyard and then add any 10E card from your deck to your hand, which is nice. So we will do that, and then we can target anything, doesn't really matter, because we'll use it as a link material anyway. Okay, now we have a link tree and a link effect monster, so that allows us to make a link free. So normally you need 3 monsters to make link free, but because we have a link 2, that can count as 2 of its material. So we just need a link 2 plus monster, and that will give us a link free. And now the link free is on our field, and it is not an effect monster. As you can see, it doesn't have any effects. So because we don't have an effect monster, we can actually now use the effect of the 10E in our hand to special summon itself, because we control no effect monsters. So yeah, the gimmick of this deck is basically to special summon these 10Es and then turn them into non-effect links, and then you can gain a lot of advantage by just having them on your field. For example, the green 10E has the effect when an attack is declared involving a face-up non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, and then your opponent's monster loses 1500 attack. So basically, you will have a non-effect monster like a Berserker, which has a really high attack, and you want it to stay on your field, and then you can protect it using the other 10Es that you have in your hand or in your grave. So Vessel of the Dragon Cycle is a really good spell. It allows us to send a worm type of monster from your deck to the graveyard, and because all of the 10Es are worm monsters, you can basically send any of them. And also, if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can add to your hand any 10E monster with a different name from the monster that you sent from the first effect. So we can do that right now. And we can send the water 10E or the fire 10E, because we don't have these in our graveyard or hand. So we can send that to the graveyard, for example, so we have access to its graveyard effect. And then because we have a non-effect monster on our field, we can also add a second 10E monster from our deck to our hand. We can add anything. Usually you will want to add something that you don't have. So for example, we have the green one, we have the blue one, and we have the brown and the gold one. So we are missing the red and the black one. We'll get the black one because it's a better monster, it's a super rare, and also it has a good effect, so we will be grabbing the black one. And then since we have a non-effect monster, and we don't have any effect monsters, we can use the effect of the black one that we just searched. If you control no effect monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. So we will be summoning it in attack, and then now we cannot summon the green one anymore because we have an effect monster, but that is okay. And then now we can actually use the graveyard effects of the stuff that we have in our graveyard. For example, the gold one has the effect if you control a non-effect monster. It doesn't matter if you have an effect monster, because as long as you have a non-effect monster, you can use the graveyard effect, which allows us to banish itself from the graveyard and then summon something from your deck. We could get the red one because we don't have the red one yet. That's the only one that we don't have. But for this scenario, you probably want to get the brown one because we have a level 7 monster on our field. And once you have a level 7 and a level 1, the level 1 is a tuner, as you can see. It is a tuner. That's the only tuner in our deck. So, in case you aren't familiar, if you have a non-tuner and a tuner, you can basically add the levels up and make a synchro monster that has the combined levels of the two monsters. So as you can see, we have a level 1 tuner and a level 7 non-tuner, and 7 plus 1 is 8. So we can make a level 8 synchro monster, which will be our boss monster. So we can do that using the level 1 plus level 7, a tuner and a non-tuner, and we can make the boss monster, which is Draco Berserker. So as you can see, we did a lot of things in one turn. In just a single turn, we basically made the birth of our boss monsters, the Link and the Synchro monster. And now we can even use the effects of the stuff that we have in the graveyard. For example, Dead Hara has an effect that can banish itself to add back a banished Tenyi. Because we banished the gold one to use its effect, we can just add it back using the earth one. And then now we could also use the effect of Vishuddha because we used it as a synchro material and it's now in the graveyard. And also we control a non-effect monster, which is Berserker. We could use its effect as well to banish it and then return a card our opponent has back to the hand. It can be monsters, it could be spells and traps, it could be face up, it could be face down, it doesn't matter, it can return anything, and that is what makes this deck so good, is because cards like Vishuddha can remove your opponent's stuff just like that. It adds it back to the hand, which is fine usually. That allows our opponent to basically set it back during their next turn, but if you return extra deck monster, let's say if your opponent has a fusion monster or a link monster, they don't go to the hand, they go to the extra deck instead, because you can't have extra deck monsters in your hand, they go straight to the extra deck. So that basically just gets rid of them entirely, and that is really good. And now we have one last effect that we can use, so let's do that. We can activate the effect of Heavenly Dragon Circle, because we discarded it using the Shaman earlier. And now you can add anything. Usually you will be adding a field spell, because that is the only way you can actually add the field spell from your deck to your hand, other than just having it in your opening hand. So we will be grabbing that, and then we can activate the field spell. So the field spell is really good if you have a non-effect monster like a Berserker, because let's have a look at what this card does. All non-effect monsters on the field are unaffected by monster effects. So this is an effect monster, so that doesn't count. But this is a non-effect monster. It doesn't have any effects. So if your opponent tries to use a monster effect to remove your link monster, which doesn't have any effects, it won't work because the field spell will protect it. And also once per turn, if your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control a face down monster or a non-effect monster, you just draw 2 cards for free. So it's basically like a pot of greed that you can use every single turn your opponent summons a monster. It is once per turn, so you can't just keep drawing cards forever, but drawing 2 cards is really strong. There is a reason why Pot of Greed is banned in this game. So the field spell not only gives you protection, it also gives you more stuff that you can use during your next turn, because it gives you 2 draws every single time your opponent special summons a monster. So the board you can see right now with the field spell plus the link plus the synchro monster, this is the best board this deck could make, even in the expensive version. Even if you have more expensive cards, even if you have 3 copies of the ultra rare, even if you have better link monsters, this board will be the best board this deck can make, and it is really good. Because not only do you have a monster that is unaffected by monster effects because of your field spell, you also have a really strong synchro monster. So this synchro monster has an effect when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish that monster as a quick effect. So let's say your opponent activates an effect like, let's say they're also playing Tenyis, and they activate the effect of Ashuna to special summon itself from your hand. You can chain the effect of Draco Berserker. Basically, you can activate its effect before the effect actually, before your opponent actually resolves the effect. You can use its quick effect to activate it beforehand, and then banish whatever monster is using the effect. So if your opponent is using Ashuna, you get to banish it before it summons itself to the field, so you basically get rid of it. Well, one thing you have to keep in mind is that this card doesn't actually negate the effect, so the effect will still happen. If your opponent uses a monster effect, it will still be resolving. They will still be able to use the effect, but you will be able to get rid of whatever is activating the effect. So if your opponent has a boss monster, and it activates its effect, you get rid of it. You just banish it for free. And that is really good. And also, if it destroys an effect monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, it also gains attack permanently equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. So this monster gets really big if you actually get to destroy your opponent's monster by attacking. And also, you can attack a second time if you use this effect. So this monster can attack 2 monsters in a single turn, and that is really, really strong. It allows you to clear opponent's board a lot more effectively, and basically push full game that way. But none of this applies right now because our opponent is not playing a very good deck. They will not be using any monster effects before we win the game. So we can just go to battle and attack with the 2 3k attack beaters, and we can just win the game on the spot right now.